Hi, everyone. My name's Taylor Abramowitz, and I'm going to be demoing GA4 for you today. I'm a platform sales engineer here at Google. And a fun fact about me is I love to bake cookies. So if you ever want to talk about baking cookies or computer cookies, I'm here for you.
Hey guys, my name is Brian Park. I'm also a sales engineer on the same team as Taylor. My fun fact is that there are actually 5 people with the same exact first name and last name as me here at Google. So I joined Google earlier last year, and when it was time to create a user account, it was actually very, very difficult to do so because there were so many people with the same name as me. So a little bit of a challenge. We can go ahead and get started today with a couple things. So for today, in terms of learning objectives, we want to make sure that the audience was comfortable with these 3 key takeaways. One, we want to make sure that everybody is able to create explorations and collections in GA4, and they'll be able to adapt their reporting to their business needs. 2, we'll get started with some advanced use cases in GA4, and Taylor is going to demo how you can get set up and get running. The only thing is we want to ensure that you guys are able to turn on Google Signals and take advantage of configurations like product linking just to get set up with those advanced use cases. Lastly, we want to ensure that everybody feels comfortable with taking GA4 and making it really an actionable data platform where you'll be able to connect analytics and your media activation for things like audience remarketing. In terms of what we'll cover today, 3 key things. One, we'll do a quick refresher on Google Analytics 4. We'll talk about how it differs and evolves from Universal Analytics. 2, we'll talk a little bit about prerequisites and how to get started. So, what are the steps to turn on Google Signals, how to get linking set up. So finally, 3, Taylor is actually going to take charge of the GA4 demo, where she'll walk through 4 distinct use cases where she uses Google Analytics for audience and measurement use cases. So we'll go ahead and get started with a quick GA4 refresher. So a couple things just to take note of. If you've used Universal Analytics in the past and you're trying Google Analytics 4 for the first time, it requires a little bit of a mindset shift. As if you're using Universal Analytics, you may be used to kind of thinking through things through the lens of sessions and hits. And today, for Google Analytics 4, the platform is heavily reliant on a new data model that's really focused around events. And events are highly flexible and adaptable towards digital platforms and websites. So really, at the end of the day, it's a scalable platform for being able to collect events, metadata, and data types all within a single platform. The other key thing to note is that we've greatly improved the experience for cross-platform reporting. So it's important to consider that Universal Analytics first became available around 2012, so almost a decade since today. So in the past, in 2012, most users were still using their desktops as their primary computing platform for accessing the web, and most smartphones were still using 3G internet at the time. Fast forward to today, a user may use up to 8 different devices to access the web. So the expectations for large enterprise brands is to provide a holistic experience that spans across platforms and across channels. So with that in mind, we have a brand new way of identifying users in Google Analytics. So instead, we primarily leveraged cookie IDs in order to identify users. Today, what we do is we leverage your own user ID, a Google signals for understanding logged in users. And lastly, if we don't have those 2 signals present, then we resort to a device ID or cookie ID for identification. So all in all, it's a much more advanced and sophisticated way of identifying users that aligns with modern expectations for the consumer. Again, just to emphasize that, there's a brand new data model here at play. And really simplistically, if we wanted to kind of reconsider this, again, universal analytics, we had a way of kind of looking at everything through the lens of hit types. So a hit could be anything between a page view, a transaction, or being able to view things on a screen. Today, what we look at today is you're able to connect your website, your mobile applications, all within Google Analytics, and everything is treated as an event. Any data describing the event is captured as parameters, and that's an excellent place to collect metadata. So we have a highly scalable platform for collecting data that could be used for reporting, measurement, and even activation once you have your first-party data in the platform. We've made GA4 much easier to use and from an implementation standpoint. So in addition to having a wider range of data sets that can be collected, it's also worth noting that there's a lot more automatically collected events that are available through an out-of-the-box implementation with Google Analytics 4. We capture things like capturing the user's first session, when a session starts, and also we collect detailed information about user engagement. Once you turn on enhanced measurement events in the user interface, you'll also be able to collect things like outbound clicks, site searches without additional tracking code implementations. Lastly, it's worth noting that it's worthwhile to invest time and resources into implementing events that align with your vertical or events that are closely aligned with your specific business. So, for example, if you are a travel, if you're operating within the travel vertical, you could capture things like airline miles and loyalty status, all within custom dimensions to make the measurement and activation experience within Google Analytics much more rich. So it's worth noting that there's a ton of innovation within the platform, and with the responsibility of collecting a lot more information today than we had available in the past, we want to ensure that we're doing it through the lens of privacy. So we're innovating for a future that is consented. So it's worth noting that we are providing a platform where you can manage consented users and their data accordingly. Additionally, we provide a platform where we make it easier to collect first-party data. So as long as users consent towards data collection and first-party data collection, we provide additional signals so that way you can learn more about your consumers. And lastly, we leverage machine learning capabilities to help fill in the gaps. So for example, if there's limitations due to unconsented users or limitations with technology, we use machine learning to help fill in the gaps as it relates to behavioral data and cookie loss. So let's take a quick peek at what that end-to-end experience looks like. First, we collect data from web and app data, and this is exclusive to the GA4 experience. We have a common data model to collect data from those two data sources. Additionally, we can take in first-party data from offline data sources, and we layer that on top with our own data coming from Google Media. If for some reason we are seeing a cookie loss due to an unconsented user or through limitations with technology, what we have aimed to do is we leverage machine learning models to help fill in the gaps, so that way we could provide measurement reports and machine learning to kind of help fill in any gaps in the data due to these restrictions. So next, we'll talk a little bit about some of the things you can do to get started on some of the advanced use cases that we'll be covering today. You'll need 3 things to get started today. First, you'll want to go ahead and implement user IDs within your Google Analytics properties. This may require a little bit of implementation on your end, but on the other hand, you can also leverage Google Signals, which is readily available from the user interface. Additionally, from the same admin portal, you'll be able to connect your Google Ads, your GMP accounts with Google Analytics directly from the admin portal. And lastly, you'll just want to make sure that you have the right access levels in order to recreate some of the reports and functionality that we'll be covering today. So we'll at least recommend that you have editor access to be able to do a lot of these things today. and then I'll pass it off to Taylor.
Hi, everyone. I am going to take what Brian just shared with all of you in terms of the background of Google Analytics 4 and the changes with Universal Analytics and dive into the platform itself. We put together 4 different use cases that we'll cover today. And these are the 4 use cases we're going to cover. Hopefully, either they speak to your specific industry or you're able to translate the use case to a need for your company or small business. So, the first use case we'll look at is a financial services related use case about credit card application sign up. So, if you have a contact us page, any type of form sign up process that's multiple steps, you'll be able to use this use case for you. The second is food delivery. So something like a Grubhub or an Uber Eats or DoorDash, looking at their user journey analysis. So if you have an app plus web environment, this will really speak to you as well. The third use case I think can speak to everyone here today, which is a CMO dashboard for reporting for a CPG company. So how can we make custom reports and save them to easily access them in the future? And then the last use case is e-commerce. So how can we create audiences to then pass them to different buying doors? So our first use case today is a credit card company wants to know what is causing friction during the sign up process. So I'm going to jump into the demo. For this part of the demo, I'm using the Google Merchandise Store. So for some background here, the Google Merchandise Store is where you would purchase a Google t-shirt, a YouTube sweatshirt. So if you want to start your holiday shopping early, this is kind of where you would go for that. Again, I'm using the merchandise store for these different use cases. So for this one is the financial services. So the data you may see here may not perfectly align to an actual credit card company. So use your imagination with me today in order to kind of get the most out of this demo. To understand the sign up process, we will look at the Explore report section. So Explore can be found on the left-hand rail here. For demo purposes, I have some tabs open to make sure I'm following my storyline appropriately for you all today. In explorations, you're able to explore different reports that have been pre-built for you. So you can see there's a template gallery at the top, and there's different templates that you can choose from. And there's a lot of them. For today, we're going to use funnel exploration. And what's great is you could see I saved it for today down here. Brian and I have been in our merch store a lot. And so we're going to jump into the funnel exploration. So in the funnel report, you can see that there are these different bars of a chart kind of going down with each of the different steps. What this is showing is the credit card sign up process. So you could see step 1, someone selected a card. So maybe they wanted the platinum card of the Google credit card. And then step 2, they completed their personal info. So maybe they filled out Taylor, my home address in Chicago, and so on, any additional information. And then the last step is submitting the application and then waiting to hear if I was approved for that credit card. So in order to set up this funnel, you would go to the steps section down here and click edit, which is this pencil icon. When you see the pencil icon anywhere in the UI, that means that you can edit kind of whatever is in that area. So by clicking edit, you would be able to change the different steps of the funnel. You can tell here I've kind of masked the way it would work because again, this is the demo account for merchandise store and not actually a credit card company. But you can select kind of what steps you want. You can select if something's directly followed, meaning step 1, and then it has to be step 2. So they selected a card and immediately went to fill out their personal information. Or in this case, I have is indirectly followed by. The reason why I have indirectly followed by for this credit card example is sometimes users on a financial services site would shop around cards first before filling out the funnel or filling out the form to then kind of fill out that personal information. And then I have 3 different steps here. And when you hit apply, this is how it would appear. One other point that I want to call out on kind of this section of Explore is open funnel. An open funnel is what it sounds like. If it's a closed funnel, which mine is right now, means that people have to enter in step one. They have to enter in selected card. They can't start my funnel in personal info complete. If I make it an open funnel, it means at any stage of my funnel, someone can enter in to kind of look at their checkout journey. I say checkout journey because open funnels make more sense for e-commerce companies. So let's say I sell clothing like the merchandise store here. I wouldn't want to make it that someone has to enter on the Google sweatshirt page. They could enter on the Google t-shirt page, but as long as they kind of start that checkout journey process, that's what matters to me. So making an open funnel, if I started from a product page, would make the most sense. What's great about the Explore tool in GA4 that I love is you can easily create segments or audiences within the report. I want to call out if you're using the merchandise store with me, kind of clicking alongside, you may not be able to create an audience just due to your level of access in the demo account, but we can create a segment together right now. If I want to create a segment of users that selected a card and then went to the personal info complete, all I have to do is right click and create a segment for users. Or if you're like me on a Mac, double click with 2 fingers, 1 click down, and this will pop up. What this shows is I created a segment of these users from users that started in my step 1 and then went to step 2. I can click save, and then once I click save, you can see in the left-hand side here, selected card to personal info complete is now a segment I can use. What's great is this segment can then be applied to other tabs in this workbook. So I like to think of it as a like Google Sheets doc or an Excel document where this is one workbook and then you have other tabs within it. So if I go to Freeform, then you can see selected card to personal info complete is a column in my Freeform report. So again, creating segments is a great way to be able to create different cohorts of users to then do a deeper analysis. To review what I just went through for this first use case, so if we could jump back to the deck. Great. We're looking at the use case again for a credit card company who wants to understand their checkout or their form sign up process. So I used the Explore reporting, which is the new custom reporting section in Google Analytics 4. I use the funnel exploration, which is one of the pre-built types of or templates of reports that you can use. And I created different steps to make sense based on my customer journey that I wanted to evaluate. In this case, a credit card form sign up. And the last step was I created a segment. So I created a segment based on that user flow and I applied it to a different tab of my workbook in the Explore section of GA4. To go to the next use case, we're going to look at a food delivery service that wants to better understand on what device orders are being placed. So I'm going to jump back into the demo environment. And just a heads up here, I'm now using the flooded account of the Google demo account. The reason why I'm using this is flooded is an app plus web environment, meaning that Floodit is a game that you could play, whether it's on your cell phone app or on your desktop computer. So the reason why I did this is so you could see kind of the breadth of our demo accounts that you could play around with that make the most sense for your business. So I'm using the segment overlap report. Again, this is a template that you can choose from the Explore section of Google Analytics 4. The segments can be anything you want them to be, any segments you created. In our last example, I could have created another tab in that workbook and created and used that segment of that kind of checkout process, the form fill process, and used it here as a segment. Because our use case is a food delivery service wanting to understand how the orders are being placed, I think that what makes the most sense is looking at mobile and desktop traffic. For a food delivery service like DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats, there's going to be a better overlap of mobile and desktop data because it could be that I'm it's 4 o'clock in the office and I'm trying to decide what my husband and I should eat for dinner on my desktop. And when I get home, I go on my app and actually order from one of the food delivery services. For our flooded account, it doesn't have as much overlap. But again, use your imagination for the food delivery service. So you could see for the segment overlap report, we get these different bubbles of information. These are users during this time range of, I have July 19th to August 17th, that have come to my site, these different users and what devices they came from. Again, it could be for anything. One thing that's great about Explore in general is it's all drag and drop. So I'm drag and dropping paid traffic from my segment into the segment comparison section, and then it will automatically add that extra bubble of information, so you can see the different overlaps. So once that loads, you'll see that there's paid traffic that overlaps with my mobile traffic and desktop traffic. You can really drag in anything that you want for it to load. And what's enabling this is using user ID or Google Signals. So like Brian mentioned in our kind of setup section, user ID would be the food delivery services user. So if I am Google Food Delivery and I have a user base, whatever email address or whatever login information, maybe they have a username or an email address or a different login system, they would use that as their user ID and pass that into Google Analytics 4 to help with the user mapping or user journey identification across these different devices. If you're a company that doesn't have user ID, there's no worries. You can use something called Google Signals, and that will also help enable the overlap here. If you're familiar from kind of the previous learning path, Google Signals is using Google logged in data across different devices to help with this kind of user mapping here. If you want to explore, no pun intended, sorry for that. If you wanted to look at your Google Signals, you would go into the admin section. And then under admin, you would go to data streams. Data settings, data collection. And this is where you would be able to enable Google Signals data collection. I would recommend meeting with whether it's your privacy team or legal team before hitting this very easy to toggle on button, just to make sure that all of you get the green light from your team before doing so. So to review everything that we just went over, we looked at the segment overlap report for our use case for this food delivery company. They wanted to understand the overlap between mobile and desktop because of their different user journeys that are applicable to their application. So segment overlap, again, you can use anything you want. Within the Explore report, not just in segment overlap, can you do drag and drop. So you can drag anything from that left-hand side into the report to easily change it. And lastly, Google Signals as well as user ID is what helps with that ID resolution. I see there is a question. Would mobile traffic include both mobile web and app? So yes, mobile web typically falls under a browser because mobile web is actually a browser environment when an app collects its information from an SDK. So it's a little bit different in terms of data collection. So it would be an iOS web as opposed to, let's say, the SDK in an app, if that helps out. Perfect. So we're going to jump to the next use case. This is, I think, applicable to everyone. A CMO at a CPG company needs an executive level report to track KPIs. So if you don't want the acronyms, Chief Marketing Officer at a consumer packaged goods company needs an executive level report to track key performance indicators. We love acronyms here at Google, so I thought I'd debunk those for you on the call. So to jump back into to the demo, we are going to look at different reports here. So in the reports, anything that you want to look at, you can edit, like I mentioned before, by using this pencil. So by editing these reports, you can customize them for whatever you need. One of the biggest pieces of feedback I get being a sales engineer when comparing Universal Analytics to Google Analytics 4 is there aren't as many reports, which is true in the sense that in the left-hand rail of the screen, there are fewer reports that you can immediately click into. However, the reports themselves are more customizable. So let's say our CMO, Jamie, I gave her a name, wants to look at this report here. I edited it by clicking on that pencil icon. And then I can go in here and look at the report that is pre-built by GA4 for you. And I can scroll around and see this isn't the exact report that Jamie wants. So I can go into metrics, and let's say Jamie doesn't care about engagement rate and she wants to add a metric of add to carts. Then I would click apply. And this report is now updated for me. I can save it. And so that way, when Jamie comes back and looks at it, or I want to come back and look at it because I'm internet marketing consultant and I want to be able to look at the same report week after week or on a monthly basis, I can click save as new report and I can name it, we'll call it Learn with GMP Demo, and click save, and that report will be saved for me. What's great is when you go back, not only is that report saved for you, but within GA4, you can actually change the way that this left-hand navigation looks. So by going to library, you can create something called a collection. I started ours today so we could look through it. So I have the Learn with GMP CMO collection. And what you can do is create your own customized collection. What that means is on the left-hand rail, any groupings of reports is a collection. So under Learn with GMP CMO collection, I have the Learn with GMP CMO user report that we just created together, and then e-commerce purchases, which you could see is on the right-hand side, which is a report that's pre-built for you in GA4. And you would save this. And once you hit save, you would go back to this library view, click these three dots, click publish, and then now you can see if I go back to the home screen, and you may have actually gotten a sneak peek, you can now see the Learn with GMP CMO collection reports are here. We have Jamie's reports, and a lot of CMOs love seeing their name in the UI. Or you can name it, whether it's marketing team, or maybe you have a product team that is creating these same reports, or you have a QBR collection. So all your reports are saved every time you need to pull those QBR reports or their quarterly business review reports. So under Jamie's reports, we have everything that we just created. So what's great about this is, again, you customize this report, which you were not able to do in UA, Universal Analytics. You would have had to go to custom reporting just to change one column. So it's great that you can click this pencil icon and change it. And now Jamie can easily access, or your team can easily access this shared report with anyone within the property. One last item I want to call out for Jamie, my favorite CMO that may exist out there somewhere, is something called Insights. So at the bottom of the home screen, we have Insights and Recommendations. This is a little bit hidden, but I love it and want to call it out. Insights is using AI to kind of understand different anomalies. Oh, sorry, hit the back button. Different anomalies within your data. So you can see that organic search appeared as the last touch point in 25% of my conversions. That's new. So maybe that gives me kind of a light bulb to talk to my content team. Maybe there was content published on the Google blogs talking about our t-shirts that I didn't know about. Or maybe that we've had more paid search traffic and now organic is picking up. So it can really help with your ideation of different types of analyses that you could do. If you wanted to create your own, you can start from scratch at the bottom. And then you can set conditions for your insight. One thing that's great is in Universal Analytics, this was called custom alerts. And you could only do it on a daily basis. These custom insights, when it's web data, can be done hourly. So for the CPG company, maybe with Super Bowl coming around the corner in February, you sell chili mix, and you want to make sure that hourly you're getting information from your company, or maybe Black Friday makes sense for you. So you can have these hourly updates. You can select a metric. So whether it's conversions, I'm going to do entrances because we're a CPG company and maybe we have a blog on our site for keep going with my chili recipes. And we want to kind of understand the anomaly, meaning that data looks different than normal. And that's using Google's AI. And then you can name the insight. So we'll name it football season insight CPG. And then you can see I can have it emailed straight to me or at jamie@cmo.com. So anytime that there's an anomaly with entrances, me and Jamie will get this email on an hourly basis. So to recap, kind of everything we went through that is at a CMO level. For CMO reporting, you can customize the reports even if they are pre-built within GA4. You don't have to use Explore. If there's something that you already like that's pre-built, you would click on the pencil icon and customize that for you. You can add the charts, you can remove the charts, add different metrics, and so on, and customize it for your needs and save them. And then save them into a collection. Again, you would go to library and create a collection of reports for your team or that are frequently used by your company. So they're saved in your left-hand rail for you. Just remember to publish them. And then lastly, using analytics insights. So using Google's AI technology to help with anomaly detection, whether that's good because you have a spike in traffic due to an awesome chili recipe being published, or maybe kind of a cautionary insight, meaning that entrances have dropped. So maybe some of your tagging has misfired, or maybe something is not working as intended on your site. So to jump to the next use case, an e-commerce retailer wants to know which website visitors are most likely to become customers. So what I'm going to show here is audiences. So I'm going to jump to the audience tab. So in order to do this, you would go to the left-hand rail under configure, which is this kind of bulleted section here. I was trying to decide what the icon looked like, a bullet list. And this is where you can configure a number of things, whether it's custom events or those enhanced conversions. This is kind of where you would create an event and then mark it as a conversion. Audiences, custom definitions, and debugging, which would happen when you're setting up. But I'm going to look at audiences for today. What's great about this section is you can create a new audience. So create custom audiences from scratch. So you could do when users are from a different or from a specific geography, if they have a traffic source from a specific campaign that you're interested in. So let's say you have a campaign running and I'm interested in this banner test and I want to create an audience. So learn with GMP banner test. I can save this audience. What's great is you can also set a membership duration. So one thing I want to call out here is membership duration means how long would that user fall in this bucket. So we're going to use e-commerce as an example. Brian is looking to buy a new Google t-shirt for his mom for the holidays, and he falls into this user bucket. 30 days, pretending we're closer to the holidays, would be kind of a long lead time for something as inexpensive as a t-shirt. You might want to shorten that membership duration to something more like 7-10 days. So when you think of these fast fashion companies like a Shein or dating myself, like a Forever 21, those kind of user durations are probably too long for 30 days and you'd want to shorten them. But when you're thinking of something like buying a car or life insurance or something that takes a lot more research, you might want a longer membership duration because they're less likely to overnight decide, you know what, I need life insurance and I'm going to go with this policy provider. There's going to be a lot of research. You want to keep them within that audience pool for a longer period of time. What's great about audiences that are created in GA4 is when you pass them to your different buying doors, whether that's Google Ads, DV360, SA360, and so on, these audiences automatically update for you. So I don't have to manually remove Brian once he falls out of that membership window. It will just automatically update. And because there's a seamless integration between our different products, you already have it updated not only in GA4, but also in the buying doors. So if I were to save this, I could then capture this within my buying door to use as an audience. What else is great in the audience section is something called predictive, which is new to GA4. So these predictive audiences are using machine learning algorithms based on your data. We're using e-commerce here for a likely 7-day purchaser. So what that means is based on your historical purchasing information, what's the likelihood that someone will purchase, well, you keep using Brian, in the next 7 days, that t-shirt that you're interested in. So what you could do is, let's say I only want to market to the top 90th percentile, meaning there's a 90% probability that Brian is going to purchase that. I can keep it there, or I can move the sliding bar and you could see at the bottom how many users are in this range. So obviously, as I decrease the percentile, the number of users increases. So maybe you want to make sure you have a large enough audience pool for your campaign, or maybe, I know Brian's going to buy that t-shirt, so I want to create this audience and pass it to a buying door to bid down or make it so I'm not bidding on Brian because I know he has a high likelihood to purchase. See, we have a couple questions. Sorry, for the insights section, is there a way to customize insights on certain KPIs and schedule emails alerts based on certain benchmarks? Yes, in the sense that when you go to that insights section, you would be able to create a custom alert for anything that is interesting to you and your business. So I just had it as an anomaly in entrances, meaning that Google Analytics detects that there's something funky or different good going on with my data. But if you wanted to make it that anytime we have an average order value over $100, that could also be an email that you receive on a hourly or daily frequency if that's something that's interesting to you. So I would just try to understand what benchmarks are important to you so you're not getting flooded in a good way or a bad way with emails. And also if you did it in a less frequent time period. So instead of hourly and you wanted to do it daily or weekly, so you can kind of see that grouping of data. So it could also help you know, hey, do I need to jump in GA4 the second I get to the office? Or I don't need to because I actually just got into my email and I have that answer for me. The next question, when creating an audience, if you set the duration to 60 days, will it look back the 60 days or is today day 0? And it will take 60 days to hit 60 days, i.e. how long to populate the audience fully? Brian, do you want to jump in on this one? Here, let me.
Thanks for the question. So for this, I believe it's the last 60 days. So today is day 0. The other question, the follow-up part of this question in terms of how long does it take to populate the audience fully, it's helpful just to know as well that the audience gets shared with a Google Ads, a Search Ads 360, a Display Video 360. It takes about 24 hours. So it's helpful to know that there's that 24-hour delay before an audience is created and the data is shared back to some of the buying applications. But great question.
Perfect. To recap the e-commerce section of creating audiences, We looked at trying to understand the different audiences that we can create as well as passing them to our buying doors. So we use the configure section of Google Analytics 4 to configure audiences that make the most sense for our business or ones that we want to test out and pass to our buying doors. So Audience Builder, you can create your own custom audiences, or you can use our pre-built ones that are in Google Analytics 4 for you, such as predictive metrics. So likelihood to purchase in 7 days, 28 days, likelihood to churn, meaning they're not going to come back to the site for 7 days. So if you produce content, let's say every other day, and you have a likelihood to churn within the next 7 days, that's not good because that means that user is not coming back to fulfill their content needs on your site. Last but definitely not least is our Google integration. So with GA4, you can link your different buying doors, whether that's Google Ads, Display and Video 360, Search Ads 360 to Google Analytics 4. So those audiences that we just talked about, you can pass for bidding purposes. So what did we cover today? So financial services, we looked at the credit card application sign up. So if you want to build this for me, we use the explore section of GA4 to create your own funnel analysis and created a segment. So if you remember, we helped create the different steps that made sense for your checkout process or your sign up process. And then we created that segment and shared that segment of those users into another tab within our explore booklet. We then looked at a food delivery company, so like a Uber Eats or a DoorDash or a Grubhub, and wanted to understand the user analysis of their overlap between their mobile and their desktop users. So we leveraged Google Signals, which is kind of the background star here, Google Signals or user ID in the Explorer segment overlap report. Again, I use mobile, desktop, and paid traffic, but you can use any segments that make sense for your business to see how they overlap. You can create an audience there as well or a segment. Next, we looked at CPG company and Jamie, our CMO, creating a dashboard for her. So we created custom reports, again, clicking on the pencil icon in any report in GA4, customizing that, saving it, and then creating your own collection in the library section of the reporting area of GA4. We also looked at insights because they're fun. They can email you updates of your business as well. Last but not least, we looked at an e-commerce customer analysis, aka creating audiences. We created audiences in Audience Builder, and we also leverage predictive audiences, so likelihood that someone purchases the next 7 days, and pass that to our Google marketing platforms for advertising. You want to jump? So our next steps, and I see we have a couple questions, but we're one slide away to all of the questions, and we'll jump to them together. Kind of next steps. These are things that I think you can do after this session, or if you were following along, continuing to show your teammates what you learned. One, you can start a new Explore report to help uncover new insights. So I just went through 2 today. I went through the segment overlap, the funnel exploration, and then I kind of teased the free form report by showing how you can use another segment in another tab. But go ahead and play with the other templates that are in there. There's a good amount for a good jump off reporting and kind of deciding where you can go next. Second, create an audience based on your business goals and send to your buying platform. It's always great to create an audience and test it out. You never know what audience you can create in GA4 that might work for your business that you're not able to do in ads, for example. One of my favorite examples is maybe you want to create an audience in GA4 for users that made it to your site via a paid social platform and then did some action. Creating an audience off of that is very powerful because that's not something that you could capture with just a floodlight or a pixel in our other buying doors. Lastly, customize a report, save it, and create a collection. I love creating custom reports. It's a pain having to create them over and over again. So a saving feature is one of my favorite things. And creating a collection, if you're making the same reports or looking at the same reports every week or month or quarter for your team, or you're higher ups, it's great to be able to save it to a collection and then you have an exact spot for you to look at in the platform. Name it after yourself too. Always fun to see your name within the UI. So those are some next steps that Brian and I think can help you with your GA4 journey. And I think we're going to jump to questions if I remember. Yes.
Yes, Taylor and Brian, thank you both so much. So we do have some questions. And again, thank you for hitting a lot of the questions as we went, which I always think is super helpful. I will start at the top and I'll try my best to sort of comb through the ones I think we did miss. So give me 1 second here. So first question that I had on my list was, when will GA4 support enhanced conversions? Do either of you have any context or guidance on that?
Unfortunately, we don't have exact timelines yet, but we know that's a feature that's heavily anticipated by a lot of customers. We're hoping that we'll have more news on it to come in the next couple of months, but definitely it's a big priority for us in terms of delivering a more integrated experience with Google Ads as well as Google Analytics in regards to enhanced conversion. So thank you for the question.
Got it. Thank you, Brian. Next up here, you might have to read a little bit between the lines on this one. And I think it was referring back to, Taylor, I think your first use case. But would mobile traffic include both mobile web and app?
I think I may have touched on this, but a quick reminder back to that question, the mobile traffic would be kind of under a mobile web environment. App is typically anything that is captured by the Firebase SDK, which stands for Software Development Kit. So anything that is captured by Firebase in GA4 falls under the app area, when anything that would not be captured by Firebase, so like you mentioned, MWeb, would fall under the web category. The easy way to understand that is if a user is going directly to, I'll keep using DoorDash and Grubhub. If you go to the DoorDash app itself, and that's where you're placing your order, that is the Firebase SDK capturing that information. If I'm going to Safari or Chrome and then typing DoorDash or Grubhub.com, that is MWeb, and that would fall under the web umbrella of the data within GA4. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Taylor. I'm actually taking a bunch of questions, which is awesome to see the engagement. So next up is, when you create an app audience, it does not look at past GA4 data. It adds people as they see them going forward. Is that also the case for web as well?
It's a great call out. I think it's helpful to know for web, they do a little bit of backfilling for audiences, just so that way you could get it up and running as quickly as possible. Off the top of my head, I think the backfill is fairly recent. It's 30-ish days, if I can remember correctly. But yeah, definitely it's a great case of being able to explore data within Google Analytics, create an audience, and then you can get kickstarted with an audience fairly quickly for activation. So yeah.
Great, thank you, Brian. All right, keep going here. For GA4 integration, are there any resources, ideally like a complete list, on what Google products need to be linked to unlock certain features?
That's a great question. So there are a lot of different Google products and a lot of different features. So I'd want to understand which feature in particular you're interested in. The reason why I say that, and I'm kind of not giving the most direct answer, is you can link things like Google Ads, Search Ads 360, Display and Video 360 in terms of purchasing ad inventory based on the audiences you create with GA4, or the reverse, passing data from those platforms into Google Analytics for measurement purposes. There's also other products that you can integrate with from a Google perspective. So Google BigQuery. So if you wanted to pass data and export it to BigQuery, which is part of one of our cloud products for deeper measurement or analysis using SQL queries, that's another platform. If you are a New York Times or a Washington Post type company, Google Ad Manager is also another integration that you could set up in order to understand how your users not only are exploring the different articles on your site via GA4, but also how many advertisements are they seeing while they're reading an article, or the different articles that they're reading on your site. So there's definitely a lot of different integrations. I believe our help center will be a good place for you to start if there's a specific platform that you're looking for. Our help center or our developer guides are usually great ways to see what products are available for linking and how to do so.
Perfect. All right, next up on the list. So does GA4 support in-app conversions?
So I can take this one too. So yes, it does in terms of making sure that you have Firebase, the SDK, installed in your app. Then anything that happens within that app environment that you mark as a conversion will be tracked. So we'll keep using the food delivery because that was our app example today. If I ordered pad thai on my desktop or I ordered it in the app, as long as that order feature is set up correctly in terms of event tracking, then that could be utilized as a conversion within GA4, as long as you toggle on the switch that you marked it as a conversion, and that the nomenclature within your web and app environment are the same. So order underscore purchase, or however you want to set that up.
All right, it looks like we have two more to go. So next up, is there a way to only opt into audiences, but not for auto tagging when linking to DV3 from GA4?
I'll take a pass at this. Um, for audiences, so as soon as you have the products linked, audiences will automatically get shared. There's no additional effort that's needed on your hand. So as long as GA4 is connected with DV360, the sharing of audiences are automatic. I believe for DV360 GA4 auto tagging, I want to double check, but I believe auto tagging can be disabled from the DV360 side. But that's something I do want to follow up on. But yes, I believe that's something that could be disabled on DV360.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the pass at that one. I think that's going to take us to our last question. So if your Firebase has a different GA4 account ID than your website, can they be linked into one view in GA4?
So I believe when you're referencing here, I'm going to take a step back and talk about the GA4 setup for a second. So GA4, you have an account, and then under that account, you have your properties, and then you link your data streams to those properties in the account. The reason why I kind of took a step back there is a data stream is kind of what the name sounds like, where the data is coming from in order to feed the back end of your GA4 UI. So as long as you link your data stream to that property in your overall account, you should be able to get that data. Now, if you have, let's say, multiple data streams that are linked to different accounts, you will have to consolidate those data streams into one property so you could view it at one time. So I hope both angles there helped answer your question. Again, the Help Center articles and developer guides are awesome at really detailed explanations of how to link Firebase data streams to your GA4 account.
Great. So I think that covers all the questions. So we can move to close this out. I know we're right at the top of the hour, so we're doing perfect on timing. So I will try to go as quickly as possible to get us all onto the rest of our days. So if you want to hop to the next slide here. Perfect. Okay, so I did drop the link to the feedback form in the YouTube chat. If you can please take 2 minutes to complete, our team would be super grateful. Again, this was a new format, new style of session that we've typically run in the past, with a lot of heavy use case demo time. And as a reminder, one person will be selected to win some swag from our very own Google Merchandise Store. So kind of funny, we talked a lot of it about the Google Merch Store through the demo account. Well, we're going to give some Google Merch away to one lucky person today. So to close us out, right on time here, that's the end of our session today. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to our two amazing facilitators, Taylor and Brian. Without them, none of this would have been possible today. So with that, we will see you next time. And as a final reminder, keep an eye out for that follow-up resources email with both the recording, the deck, and a bunch of great follow-up resources and help center articles that were discussed today. So with that, we will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.